We spend enormous amounts of energy trying to build lives that are catastrophe-proof, like constructing elaborate sandcastles while pretending the tide will never come in. But the very attempt to make life fall apart proof is often what makes us fall apart when it inevitably does. You're standing in your kitchen, coffee in hand, scrolling through your morning dose of digital anxiety when suddenly the phone rings. It's one of those calls. You know the kind. The job is gone, the relationship is over, the diagnosis is in. The foundation you thought was solid has just revealed itself to be made of tissue paper and wishful thinking. In that moment, your carefully constructed world doesn't just crack, it shatters into 1,000 glittering pieces. And here's where most of us make our first mistake. We immediately begin the frantic reassembly project, desperately trying to glue the pieces back together exactly as they were, as if the breaking hadn't revealed something essential about the nature of what we'd built. But what if, just what if, the falling apart isn't the problem? What if it's the solution to a problem we didn't even know we had? The Buddha spoke of dukkha, often translated as suffering, though that's a bit like calling the ocean wet. It's more accurate to say that life is inherently unstable, constantly changing, fundamentally unreliable, not as a bug in the system, but as a feature. The very impermanence that terrifies us is also what makes growth, healing, and transformation possible. When chaos arrives at your doorstep, and it will, with the reliability of gravity, your first refuge is something so simple it's almost insulting: your breath. Not because breathing is magical, but because it's the one thing that's always available, always present, always yours. When your mind is spinning like a washing machine on the fast cycle, when your thoughts are ricocheting around like pinballs, your breath becomes an anchor point. Try this. Breathe in through your nose as if you're smelling the most delicate fragrance imaginable. Then breathe out through your mouth as if you're gently blowing out a candle. Do this not because it will solve your problems, but because it will remind your nervous system that you're not actually being chased by a tiger. Your body, bless its ancient wisdom, can't tell the difference between a predator and a parking ticket, but conscious breathing sends a stand-down signal to our amygdala. When life is falling apart, we tend to become completely identified with our emotions, as if we are our anger, our fear, our despair. But you're not your emotions any more than you are the weather outside your window. You are not your circumstances, not your feelings, not even your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes all of these things coming and going. When you can step back and watch your panic like you're watching a movie, with interest but without being consumed, something magical happens. You create space, and in that space, choice becomes possible. This brings us to one of the most liberating insights in all of human wisdom: the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is what happens, the job loss, the breakup, the diagnosis. Suffering is what we add to pain through our resistance, our stories about what it means, our insistence that it shouldn't be happening. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. It's the difference between being caught in a downpour and standing in the rain while cursing the sky. When you can ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me, instead of why is this happening to me, you've made a fundamental shift from victim to student. Every crisis becomes a curriculum, every breakdown a breakthrough in disguise. Not because everything happens for a reason, that's spiritual bypassing at its finest, but because you have the power to create meaning from whatever happens. This is where present moment awareness becomes not just helpful, but essential. When your mind is spinning stories about the catastrophic future or replaying the painful past, you're not actually dealing with reality, you're wrestling with ghosts. But this moment, right now, is usually workable. You can breathe in this moment. You can feel your feet on the ground in this moment. You can notice that despite everything that's falling apart, you're still here, still aware, still capable of choice in this moment. This practice is simple, but not easy. When you notice your mind time-traveling to disaster scenarios or painful memories, gently bring your attention back to what's actually happening right now. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Not your emotions, but your physical sensations, the texture of your clothes, the temperature of the air, the weight of your hands in your lap. This isn't escapism. It's the opposite. It's showing up for reality instead of your stories about reality. We might also like to create a little space for rituals during times of upheaval, not because they're magical, but because they create islands of intentionality in an ocean of chaos. Light a candle each morning and watch the flame for a few moments. Brew tea with complete attention, feeling the warmth of the cup in your hands. Take 3 conscious breaths before opening your laptop. These simple acts signal to your nervous system that despite the external chaos, you're still the author of your inner experience. But perhaps the most radical practice of all is acceptance, not passive resignation, but active acknowledgement of what is. This doesn't mean you like what's happening or that you won't work to change what can be changed. It means you stop wasting energy fighting reality and start working with it. It's the difference between trying to push a boulder out of your way and finding a path that winds gently around the hill, bypassing the obstruction and allowing you to reach the top with more ease. The Buddha's insight was profound. Pain, loss, uncertainty, and change are part of this human experience, not as punishments or mistakes, but as fundamental features of life. When you truly accept this, not intellectually but in your bones, you stop being surprised by surprise. You stop being shocked by impermanence. You begin to dance with uncertainty instead of being paralyzed by it. And here's where self-compassion becomes not just nice but necessary. When you're falling apart, the last thing you need is your own inner critic joining the demolition crew. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a dear friend going through a difficult time. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you love who's struggling. This isn't self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. The integration of all these practices into daily life is where the real magic happens. You don't need to retreat to a monastery or spend hours in meditation. You can practice mindfulness while washing dishes, feeling the warm water and slippery soap. You can practice acceptance while stuck in traffic, noticing your frustration without being consumed by it. You can practice present moment awareness while walking, feeling each step connect you to the earth. When stressful situations arise, and they will, you can create mindful pauses. Before reacting, take 1 conscious breath. Ask yourself, what would love do here? Or how can I respond rather than react? These tiny gaps between stimulus and response are where your freedom lives. Here's what the ancient masters knew that we've largely forgotten. You are not your circumstances. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness in which all of these things appear and disappear. You are the sky, not the weather. You are the ocean, not the waves. You are the space in which the drama of your life unfolds, but you are not the drama itself. When you truly understand this, not as a concept but as a lived reality, falling apart becomes less catastrophic and more like renovation. Sometimes the old structure needs to come down before something more beautiful can be built in its place. Sometimes what we call falling apart is actually falling into place. So the next time life decides to rearrange itself without consulting you first, remember, you have everything you need to not just survive, but to thrive. Your breath, your awareness, your ability to choose your response. These are your superpowers, and no external circumstance can take them away. The ground may give way, but you, the real you, remain unshakable. Not because you're made of stone, but because you're made of something far more resilient. Consciousness itself, playing the cosmic game of hide and seek, pretending to be lost so it can experience the joy of finding itself again, and again, and again.